Welcome back, Multi Battle Conference. We are here for another interview with another of our veteran teams. We've got the Po-Tay-Toes here with us. We've got Alyssa and Henry on Discord. Go ahead and say hi, guys.
Everyone,
Hi.
how's it going?
All right, so you guys have a pretty strong team once again. I remember last season your team was kind of at the top of our list in terms of which ones we liked going into the first week, and I'd say that's true this time as
Yep.
well. You guys started off with the Metagross round one, doubling up on the Psychic types with Latias round two. G-Max Grimmsnarl round 3, followed by a Firewater Grasscore in Torracat, Rotom Wash, and Lurantis. After that, your first C tier pickup with the G-Max Centiscorch, followed by the Dusknoir, and finishing it off with two D tiers in Cleffa and Bronzor. So go ahead and tell us about this team, guys.
All
So
right.
starting off,
Sorry. um. Okay. I guess I love Dialga, and you guys all know that. So I was sad that we didn't choose Dialga, but because Dialga can't Dynamax, um, Metagross is just kind of like better Dialga for lower price. Um. Yeah. So that's why we don't have Dialga. You can go, Henry.
yeah. So our original pick for the team was going to be G-Max Blastoise, which ended up getting sniped away from us. So after that, we decided to just go in what would be a general powerhouse in Metagross, and we wanted something that can really support the Metagross well. And Alyssa has in the past used Latias to pretty good effect. So having that bulldoze tailwind support for it, we thought that'd be coming in pretty well.
Yeah, I was really excited to pick Latias because, like Henry said, I used it in past in like a Series 7 team. And Latias Metagross was just so good. And I also really love Latias. I've actually used its Mega back in a regional like 2 3 years ago too. That was really really fun. I really love Latias's like versatility because she can be like really full support. She can be like also she can do good amount of damage too if she needs to. So I was really happy with Latias.
Kind of rounding off those two just to make that kind of fantasy core, we put on Gmax Grimmsnarl. So obviously really well known for using dual screens and for tricking eject button, lagging tail, and stuff like that onto opposing Pokemon. Another thing that we can use it for is it makes its attack is really really good. So as an offensive mon, we've seen it being used in the past, but very rarely. As an offensive mon, it deals a lot of damage and has a surprisingly good amount of coverage as well.
Yeah, I think what's really cool with Grimmsnarl is Henry and I both play VGC pretty heavily, and I think a lot of the other people in the league do as well. And I've really only seen Grimmsnarl as like prankster usage with that kind of thing with like whatever all the prankster moves it gets. Um, so I think it can like also like throw people off in terms of we're gonna attack with this. Like it gets sucker punch, it gets does it get play rough? It gets like a lot of moves that will just do damage. So like if someone's expecting this is a support Grimmsnarl and then we're just kind of like no, we're going to hit you with it. I think that'll be really fun versatility.
Yeah, we're definitely on board with the offensive Grimmsnarl. You don't have to sell us on that. We love that thing.
And we can Gmax it and you can go to sleep. It's great.
That too, yeah.
Oh, what was our
So then we
following
have
pick?
our what?
Torracat was next, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
That's probably one of the I think people's least favorite picks on our team. Um, Losing the dark type from being an Incineroar is huge, but it kind of makes up for that with the speed and the fact that it can kind of give out more support. What we what we really wanted it for was the fake out intimidate, which as Incineroar has as well, it's a big thing. It helps us set up Trick Room, helps us keep Metagross alive, which is one of our key mons. And just having that fast taunt pivot as well as just giving us a fire type to be able to use from the get-go.
Yeah, especially as it does tend to be more of a support Pokemon role, as the rest a good amount of our other Pokemon are mainly like attackers until our last couple of picks. So it's kind of like a really nice just like for sure kind of just support Pokemon that we can do a lot of things with. And it does start off our Fire Core, our Fire Water Grass Core, which does lead into Rotom Wash. I really like Rotom Wash because he gets Levitate, and then he's also just a really good water type. It does get okay amount of versatility too. Like it can, Will-O-Wisp, it can Nasty Plot, and just do a lot of damage. And I really like it because it gets both the electric and the water coverage for the team. And it's also very popular VGC Pokemon, so I'm comfortable with it too.
Mm-hmm.
And then our next grass is Lurantis. I think we were deciding that we needed a grass Pokemon at this point, and so I think Henry mentioned we either really want to like Serena or Lurantis, and I think either Serena was taken or just in another tier. So it's like, all right, Lurantis is great. I've played with him a little bit before, so we're gonna just Lurantis is just with Contrary, and being able to be a really offensive Pokemon. I really like her. And then we kind of, I guess one of Henry's favorite picks. I'll let you talk about this one, Henry.
Would be the Centiskorch.
Yes.
Centiskorch coming into play with, especially in Trick Room as a Trick Room counter to a lot of the common Pokemon. You're looking at fire types like Torkoal, even the Sun matchup as well, just with Venusaur. You're looking at things like Glastrier, the occasional slow Metagross for Trick Room, and Gmax Centiskorch does really well into all of those. Being able to protect its stats with White Smoke, being able to be a good switch in for fire type attacks with Flash Fire, and just having very good coverage in Grass, Bug, Fire, and being able to set up with that coil is really nice, as well as the Gmax move trapping and causing residual damage. It just puts on a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it also does double up for like our, I guess, offensive fire type here because Torcat's like our support one, but so it rounds off the core very nicely. So this next one is Dusknoir. At this point, I guess the majority of our team is like, okay, this is what we want, and now we have the rest of the last three teams, right? And we kind of wanted something that could Trick Room. I was really into Gengar. I kind of wanted Gengar, but it happened to be chosen before we got to it. So Dusknoir was kind of just the second best option because it's still a ghost type. It still gets a good amount of moves, kind of similar to Gengar. Very, very defensive. And, sets up Trick Room. It's slow. It's kind of just second Gengar. So I really liked it. Plus, Dusknoir's a cool Pokemon. So I'm just like, hey, that'll be a cool Pokemon we have in our team. And then our next one is the beloved Cleffa. We could only have two more Pokemon, and they're both going to be D tiers. So I wanted Wooloo, but Henry convinced me not to choose Wooloo out of one of our two D tiers because he put up the argument of Cleffa, which is really good support, and it does not could follow me, but it's okay because it's still a good Pokemon. Like in Trick Room, if you want to elaborate on the Cleffa, Henry.
Yeah, so originally we made the mistake of thinking it had Follow Me. We quickly found out otherwise. But even without the Follow Me, under Trick Room, it does really well support with Fake Tears, Charm, After You, Heal Pulse, Helping Hand, and just stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So while it's a very low pick and a very weak pick, it still puts in a lot of work.
Yeah, and we did snipe it pretty hard. Sorry. I'm sorry.
One of the only times I've seen Sebi mad, by the way.
Yeah.
What?
One of the only times I've ever seen Sebi mad. He's usually a pretty calm, cool guy, but you guys took Cleffa, and
I
he
got
was...
DM'd.
Oh God.
It was like, hey, if you're gonna trade away Cleffa, let us know in advance. Because we want Cleffa. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, they made the same mistake when they drafted it the first time. They also thought it had Follow Me, and then just kept that. Realized it didn't, and then kept that to themselves the entire season. So, and then they liked it anyway. So.
Yeah, like it's still a good Pokemon, even if like Friend Guard is still a good thing, and it does get Friend Guard, I think, right? Yeah, like
Yeah.
I thought I double checked that.
Yeah.
And like I checked this move pool afterwards, and I was like, this is a good move pool. So I think, because I think Sarah was like, okay, so you have to bring it to a lot of games because we brought it to a bunch of games, so if you just don't, that's just sad, kind of. I was like, okay. It was like I feel bad, but we have Cleffa, so oh well. So, and then our last Pokemon is the Bronzor, which I really like because it's just kind of a cool Pokemon in general. And also, it's a very defensive kind of support Pokemon. I haven't looked at its defenses and stats very much because it's not like it's used a lot in VGC. It is really good defense, special defense stuff. When you throw a Violet on it, it's not going to die as easily as you think it should. And it still gets a lot of access to a lot of cool support moves and like another Trick Room on this team, in case we need it or something.
For sure, yeah.
Talk about it.
A lot of good information there. Sorry, Henry, go ahead.
Oh, that's all right. Just with what Alyssa was saying was absolutely correct. It is really good when as a Trick Room on. Being able to self-proc with Bulldoze, and even having still having a good defense stat, just to be able to set up with Iron Defense and Body Press stuff.
Yeah, it's one of those D tiers we haven't really seen yet, so I'm excited to see it hit the field. A lot of good information. Loved hearing your thoughts on all that stuff. We're gonna move on to your grades now. Anthony's gonna start talking about your drafting grade.
So for drafting, we gave you a B plus. We really love a lot of what you do here, particularly with the top of the draft with the Metagross, Latios, Grimmsnarl, that fantasy core. Even though you have the double up on the Psychic, I don't think it's that big of a deal because you have obviously the Steel and the Dragon typing that complement each other very well. And then the Fairy type that you grabbed is also doubles as a Dark type, so it can hit Ghosts and actually, resist the other Dark types very well. And I think that's the synergy of those three just works out fantastically, and is a really strong core for just like a good basis of a draft team because of how versatile both Latios and Grimmsnarl are, and then how just in general how solid Metagross is as a draft Pokemon. Has really great coverage, has a really good attack stat. Obviously a great ability in Clear Bodies, so it makes it very hard to counterplay against because typically you want to, if you see a Pokemon with a base 135 attack stat, you're like, okay, let's charm it. Can't do that. Let's try and weaken its special defense and blow it up. Can't do that. So Metagross, Latios, Grimmsnarl, we absolutely loved it. We were a little bit, Matt kind of brought this up a little bit. He doesn't know if we're being biased or if we're informed because we tried Torracat before and we felt it was a little bit underwhelming as a pivot.
It was a lot underwhelming.
Yeah. But so with the fourth round pick, we thought that it was a little bit high. Not necessarily a bad thing. I think Torracat gets taken 9 times out of 10 in every draft league, no matter what, just because the combination of Intimidate plus Parting Shot plus Fake Out plus its high speed stat makes it a prime Pokemon in draft. But we just felt that in the 4th round it was a little bit too soon, especially considering like when you have some of the stuff that you took after were like Rotom Wash, which is like we love Rotom Wash. You talked about Serena. Serena would have been fantastic there instead of Torracat because I honestly feel that maybe Torracat would have still been there eventually. But the Firewater Grass core I feel is at least serviceable because you doubled up on the fire typings. Which I thought was a really good move because obviously you saw Torracat's not really an offensive type. It's more of a defensive Pokemon that might be able to pivot nicely. So you doubled up on the fire type to kind of back up the strong water grass type. The Dusknoir I actually think is a good pick for its value. Dusclops is S tier. That's 90. That's as much as the Metagross is. And as great as Dusclops is, Dusknoir can do just as well with being less than with being 60 points less than the Dusclops does. Has great defenses, still has that great move pool that that Dusclops has. The speed is not as much as you would like, obviously, compared to Dusclops. You know, doesn't have that extremely low speed. It's base 45 in this case. But overall, I think for the value, Dusknoir is actually a very, very good pick, particularly for this team. And then just rounding out your E tiers, I felt that Cleffa and Bronzer were good picks. So yes, Cleffa doesn't get Follow Me, but it does, as Henry said, get a lot of good good support moves. And with the base 15 speed stat in Trick Room, it could be very deadly just as an After You user. You know, you're over here thinking that you might have the advantage, and Cleffa now all of a sudden is able to just use After You at a base 15 speed. Not many things under speed base 15. And I actually don't think anything that was drafted hits under base 15. So
Shuckle.
Oh yes, Shuckle was drafted. Yeah. Okay, well, that was
God. Yeah, that one. That was drafted.
Yes, it was.
The main thing that we actually hit you on, the fire types honestly is one thing, but honestly the main thing is just no redirection. In a multi-battle league, you guys had Togetic last year. Having good redirection is such a premium role to have, and just like to see this strong core of Pokemon just lack redirection completely and it just be completely overlooked in the drafting aspect really made us mark your grade down, because other than that, we really liked everything that you did with it. Even if we felt we were nitpicking a little bit on how high you took certain Pokemon, the overall roster of the draft ended up being filled out quite nicely. Just if it just had that redirection, I really think that it would have took the team over the top. So for right now, we brought draft to a B+.
I think if you guys had, I was looking at what was left when you guys were taking the Torracat and what was like the fire types that were still available. I think if you guys put Magmortar in that slot, which was still available at the time, we probably would have bumped up your draft and synergy grades, especially with that Follow Me next to the like a Nasty Plot Rotom Wash or something. I think that would have made your draft like almost perfect. But moving into synergy, we still did really like the synergy that you do have. We gave you an A- on that one. With your first 3 picks, you formed that Steel Dragon Fairy Core, which has extra synergy inside of it as well. When you guys first picked, when you stacked those Psychic types as your first 2 picks, I was a little skeptical of that at first. But when you followed it up with Grimmsnarl, that was just perfect to me. I love this trio here up at the top. It's the dark typing and the fairy typing really help take care of those ghost and dark types that are going to be threatening Metagross and Latias. And one of the big things we're also looking for in synergy outside of typing is just how well your support actually does to support the threats that you have. And I think that Latias and Grimmsnarl are both going to be really good at supporting each other and supporting the Metagross, whether you want to go more offensive or supportive with either the Latias or Grimmsnarl, because they can both go both ways. I think the Tailwind from Latias, maybe even like some kind of Reflect type shenanigans, or like Icy Wind just to get extra speed control since Metagross is a little bit slow.
Gets Bulldoze.
Does it get Bulldoze?
Yeah.
Bulldoze.
Yeah, Latias gets Bulldoze, and it's great. Happy.
Yeah, that's excellent. And something else I was thinking about. Heal Pulse even. It gets Heal Pulse. Probably gets a few other things I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. And the Grimmsnarl, I think, like screens are going to help both the Metagross and Latias a lot. Especially if the Latias wants to like set up with Calm Minds or something like that. Thunderwave and Fake Tears are going to help out these two a lot, especially the Latias blowing up things with Fake Tears. Latias can actually double as a max Airstream sweeper because it gets Air Slash now in this generation. So I think Calm Mind with like a Calm Mind Air Slash with Fake Tears Grimmsnarl would be really, really deadly. These Pokemon can just do a lot for each other, and this is one of my favorite type cores out of this whole league this season, if not my number one favorite. It's really, really excellent, and I'm especially surprised because of how skeptical I was when you guys doubled up on the psychic types. But with Grimmsnarl there, it almost doesn't even matter. After that, you guys formed a Fire Water Grass core, which is pretty solid, especially with the Rotom Wash. It's obviously the best part of that core. It's the most expensive mon there, so that's to be expected. We are, of course, a little skeptical of the Torracat pick, but we really like that you guys doubled up on fire types, since you acknowledged that Torracat's not exactly the most offensive Pokemon, so if you need some offensive fire coverage, you have another option for that. There's the core is decent. It's nowhere near as good as the fantasy core up top, because some of these are Lurantis is kind of it's lacking in the speed department, and in Trick Room it can be good, but it's not as slow as you might like. A lot of the time we look for Trick Room sweepers. The standard we look for is like those base 30 speeds. Lurantis can if you're ballsy enough to put like an Iron Ball on it or something, you can make it work. But it also can't really use room service that well because of Contrary, unfortunately. But it's a decent core. You guys doubled up on the fire types because I don't think either of them is really gonna cut it. So I think that's a good decision. Rotom Wash is an excellent Pokemon, and then you've supported what some of your slower team members can do with the Dusknoir, and the Cleffa, I think, helps patch up your Trick Room mode and your Trick Room matchup pretty well. I don't think it's an ideal Trick Room mode, but it's a lot better with the Cleffa on the team, and Bronzor also just gives you another option for a Trick Room setter. So we do like a lot of the synergy you have, a lot of the ways your Pokemon support each other, a lot of the ways they work together. Yeah, good stuff on synergy. We gave you an A- there.
For threat level, we gave you a B+. Another pretty high grade there. Main reason is because while you do have the Metagross there, Latias and Grimmsnarl tend to be a little bit more on the support. They're versatile, but they're not as threatening as something as like a Metagross is. Rotom Wash is obviously something that's very threatening as well, with its ability to have like Nasty Plot. It's a great Dynamax option, but the lack of a solid Trick Room mode, and I don't want to say that it's Metagross dependent, because it's not. I think you can run different sets week to week, but Metagross is really the hard backbone of where this offense is going to be coming from a lot of the time on a week to week basis, and it might be a lot for it to carry, just because of how many roles it can fill. I mean, it just has such great coverage that like you can just almost be tempted to not even run Protect on it, because you're like, let's just run AV and 4 attacks. Like, that it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. And I really think that that even though you have like a strong backbone with Metagross, I think that some of the other offensive options that you might have might be a little bit lacking. Obviously, like something with the Torracat or the Sense Scorch isn't really going to be doing too much without some type of setup. Lurantis really wants to either be launching off like Leaf Storms if you're special, or Superpowers if you're going with like a physical set, to try and get going there, and obviously want something like Trick Room going up. So, I don't want to say we're nitpicking necessarily, because I feel that the points are valid as far as like the Metagross is really the backbone of the offense here, but I do think that you have enough tools to where if you prep well enough, you can really make this like an A+ threat level team, but it's just typically how you're gonna use these things on a week to week basis is really what it's gonna matter, because if you don't prep these correctly, you'll find that some of these options can be pretty underwhelming if they're not properly supported. So not a terrible grade overall. I think B+ is more than fair, considering that you have only a few more special or a few attackers that are on the team, but the versatility I think is really something that Matt's going to be hitting on now. That's really going to be where that threat level is.
Yeah, versatility. The versatility that you guys have on this team makes up for maybe where your threats are lacking a little bit. We gave you an A minus on this one as well. A lot of that, again, kind of like the synergy. A lot of that has to do with the core that you guys have up top there, especially the Latias and the Grimmsnarl. I really can't stress enough how good both of these Pokemon are at being offensive threats or really, really solid support, especially for what you guys have. I kind of went into that during our bit on synergy, so don't want to repeat myself too much, but they can do a lot of stuff. You're going to have a lot of different options against a lot of different teams week to week with that core up there, which is exactly what you want to increase your versatility. It's about adapting to what you're going to be playing against, and I think you guys are going to be able to do that really, really well virtually every time. The fire water grass core seems a little bit less versatile. I think Rotom still has some versatility. It can be just a straight bulky attacker. It can be a setup sweeper with Nasty Plot. It even has some speed control and some damage mitigation with Electro Web and Will-O-Wisp, and I think it gets screens too, or at least light screen. It's a little bit more versatile than the rest. I think the Lurantis and Torracat you pretty much know what to expect from those. The Torracat's just going to be kind of a supportive pivot. Maybe it's going to taunt you. In addition to that, it's going to have fake out, the classic fake out, intimidate, parting shot, all that stuff. Maybe an attack or two. Lurantis, pretty straightforward. It's going to be that contrary superpower sweeper or leaf storm. Probably superpower since its physical coverage and its physical attack is a little bit better. Dusknoir does add to your versatility quite a bit, though, because we know from playing VGC, we know how many different tools Dusclops has to support your team, whether it's Pain Split or Haze or I was going to say Ally Switch, but we can't do that.
Will-O-Wisp, Nightshade.
Yeah, it's got a lot of different tools, and obviously everything that Dusclops gets, Dusknoir gets as well. So, and the Centiskorch, I think, is a bit of a wild card. I think it could turn out to be kind of versatile, but it also may just be sort of the standard, coil thing that we're probably all expecting from it. But either way, I'm obviously curious to see what it's going to do. And then Clef, I think, has a decent amount of support options as well. With Pokemon like its evolutions, Clefairy and Clefable, they are also versatile, but it's a little hard not to just click the follow me button with those. So Cleffa is it's kind of a double-edged sword. You don't have that redirection, but you're gonna be more open to using other kinds of support with the Cleffa. So there's bits and pieces of the team that's pretty straightforward. You kind of know what to expect from it, but you guys have. We think you definitely have enough versatility to be able to adapt to pretty much anything you guys are going to go up against. Yeah. So we gave you an A minus there, and we ended with a B plus overall. We did kind of debate whether we wanted to go with the A minus or the B plus because the grades do average out to either one. We felt like if you had maybe a more robust Firewater Grass core and put some redirection on the team, that's what would allow us to bump it up to A minus. So we went with the B plus for now.
For pros, we're just going to kind of hit on these pretty quick pros and cons just because they are usually things that we've already talked about. As we talked about already, extremely strong high-tier trio that you have at the top here. Synergistic, versatility, all the good stuff that you want to hear about your top 3 picks. That's what these things have. It really is a really strong core that you guys put together here, and is one of the shining stars that you guys have in this draft is just picking these 3 Pokemon. Then obviously sticking on that, the Latias and Grimmsnarl. I think one of the things that helps these two Pokemon out a lot is their versatility and their ability to choose to go either offensive or supportive. Both Pokemon can do these at a pretty high level. Normally, I would have said that Grimmsnarl doesn't have that ability, but I think last season when we used it in draft format, that base 120 attack stat with the amount of coverage that it gets stuff like Power Whip, it gets stuff like Stomping Tantrum. It gets a lot of really good coverage that if you want to use it offensive, it's pretty bulky. It's obviously base 95 HP. So you can do a lot with it there. And Latias obviously with the 600 BST, it has a wide range of ability to do several things. With the 110 special attack stat, it can definitely set up with Calm Mind. It can have a fast Tailwind. So I think having that versatility in those two Pokemon specifically is just going to be so valuable on a week-to-week basis for you, because you're going to keep your opponents on your toes constantly. And if they don't prep for a specific thing, it could really spell the end for your opponent if they're not ready for a particular set that you might be running on these two particular Pokemon. Because obviously, Metagross is going to get a lot of the attention. It's a huge threat on your team. But if you sleep on either of these two Pokemon and you're not ready for what they're going to do, then you're not going to be in for a good time. And then I think another thing too is your Firewater Graph score. It's serviceable. I think as Matt hit on, the Rotom Wash is like really the best Pokemon in that core. Lurantis is good as well, and it can do a lot of things as far as like being in Trick Room and kind of starting to sweep and being a threat on the field. Once it hits the field, it's going to require attention or it'll just start to roll you. And then I understand. We looked at the available fire Pokemon that you could draft. There's not really a lot in the B tier and below. So it was smart of you guys to understand how this Torracat, it's good, but it's not going to be the world ender that we need it to be. We need to make it a little bit more rounded on our fire typing to really fill out this core. So I think doubling up on those fire types really made this core serviceable, more so than like some of the other cores that sometimes they'll just go water grass with no fire, and that might not be the best thing to do, to just omit the fire out of there just because you couldn't find anything. So props to you guys for understanding that you needed to round that out and being able to do that with the limited amount of points that you were allotted. So that was it for more or less for the pros.
Moving on to the cons. This first one is kind of similar to what Anthony was talking about with the Firewater Grass core. We did find it difficult to find really good viable fire types in B and C tier, but there are a few available, especially during the earlier rounds of the draft. There were still decent ones available, so we kind of felt like if you guys picked a more solid fire type that was able to fill that fire type role by itself rather than needing a second one, you guys may have been able to put something else into that other slot that helps make your team a little bit more versatile instead of doubling up on the same type, since your two fire types individually wouldn't really cut it. Also, there's no redirection on this team. Pretty straightforward, something we already talked about. These two things in combination, I think, are if those two things were to change, I think those were, like I mentioned, that's what would bump you into the A range, I think, instead of an overall grade of B+. And then the final con is that your Trick Room matchup seems decent, but I wouldn't say it's ideal. Like I said, we kind of look for the standard Trick Room sweepers to be more like base 30, and you guys have Dusknoir and Lurantis, which are both base 45, which are definitely usable, just maybe not as slow as you might want them to be. So in order to really get your offense going in Trick Room, it kind of looks like you're probably gonna have to do some setup with Lurantis before you can really get the ball rolling. So we kind of noticed that it was your Trick Room mode might not be slow or offensive enough unless you took the time to set up, or unless you were willing to bring that D tier to battle in Cleffa, because Cleffa can, if you decide to have it hit the field, it definitely can be a good supportive Trick Room on, especially with base 15 speed and after you. The obvious drawback to after you being that you're taking both of your moves to get one move off really slowly. So there is a bit of a drawback there. So I can see the Trick Room mode working. You just have to make a couple of sacrifices that maybe some stronger Trick Room modes might not need to make. So that's going to do it for our cons.
I think another thing I wanted to hit on too is you guys have such a good team as far as like balance between 1 through 8 that if you bring Cleffa, you're removing one of the Pokemon that from team preview or from your game plan. And I like so many of these that I would almost want to just bring all of them all the time. And that might be a predicament that you're in where it's like, oh, we need Cleffa. Well, what do we take out? Because everything can be so useful on this team. You obviously want to keep the top 3 there. But even, Torracat, Rotom Wash, or Lurantis, and if you want to swap that out for a Centiskorch, they could obviously serve a role. So just an interesting little tidbit that I think the team is so well balanced that if you end up having to bring one of these D tiers, it's going to only hurt you more than help you. Okay, so real quick, let's just go into some questions that we have for you guys. Let's see here. Hold on. So the first one that we wanted to ask was about your fire types, obviously. What is Centiskorch's role, and particularly, why did you go for the Torracat as high as you did?
So Torracat, it's something that we've wanted in previous seasons, and it's always gone rather early. And we just wanted to pretty much just lock that in as having a good support one. We used it a lot less for its fire typing, and a lot more for the Intimidate, plus Fake Out, plus Taunt, Parting Shot, and all that sort of thing. Which is why, as you said, we were able to back that up later on with a more hard-hitting fire type in Gmax Centiskorch.
Okay, yeah, I honestly, makes a lot of sense to me. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just that, yeah. So, with that being a part of the Fire Water Grass core, it was a lot less there for the fire type and more just because it's an incredible support one.
Yeah. And, I'm sorry. So we obviously talked about these top 3 Pokemon here, the Metagross, the Latios, and the Grimmsnarl. Did you guys plan this out? Was it something that came up organically, or were you guys in the lab weeks before going, these are the 3 Pokemon that we're gonna be targeting?
Alyssa, would you like to cover that?
Definitely not the latter. So I think I don't know. I don't remember if Penny mentioned this before, but our original plan was Gmax Blastoise with Comfey, and Gmax Blastoise was the 2nd or 3rd pick, and we were the 4th, and so we didn't get that. So we kind of had to go on the fly of like, oh, we don't get this now. So we had to go with another Pokemon, and I love Dialga, right? So I kind of wanted Dialga, but Metagross really just fits its role better because one, Metagross can Dynamax, and it also costs a lot less. And in all honesty, Metagross is kind of more versatile than Dialga in some ways as well. So we're just kind of like, all right, Metagross is kind of like, we'll choose Metagross over Dialga. And that was just kind of our first pick. And then we're kind of like, then our next pick came around. So, and then I was kind of like, oh, I like Latias next to Metagross. So I asked Henry, can we pick Latias? And he was like, sure. So I was like, okay. So I just kind of picked Latias. And then the team kind of just more or less went more one by one. So it definitely was not planned out like weeks in advance. And we had a little bit more discussing to do because there were a couple other picks that were like slightly sniped. So we were kind of like had to, we didn't have like backup picks. So we had to kind of get some of the Pokemon on the fly. Actually, most of them on the fly.
Honestly, I think it's fantastic that probably one of our favorite cores this season. Was just something that was brought up on a whim and wasn't planned at all. Looked absolutely like you guys were playing 4D chess, and the rest of the league was over here playing checkers. And you guys were just like, oh no, it kind of fell into our lap. It worked out well. So kudos to you guys.
I mean, at least you guys had some past experience in VGC backing up these combinations too,
Yeah.
so that helps a lot.
Definitely.
Yeah, a lot of our team is based around VGC. It seems like, or at least the top 3 are, because I've used Latias, Metagross, Henry's used Grimmsnarl, Metagross, all those fun Pokemon, and Rotom Wash we've used a lot. So we did build this with a lot of VGC tactics and kind of familiarities in mind.
Yeah, for sure. It always helps to have a foundation there.
So the next thing we wanted to ask was, we kind of hit on it already, that you have a lack of redirection. But do you think that the lack of redirection is going to overall hinder your guys' ability to support these threats that you have?
I don't believe the lack of redirection is going to hinder us too much. Obviously, redirection is always a nice thing to have. But in place of redirection, because if you look at our team, redirection would mainly be used for setting up either the Rotom, the Metagross, or setting up Trick Room. And the team has a lot of ways to do that without Follow Me. We've got the supportive screens, we've got Intimidate support, things like Latias having Charm, as well as having a lot of good speed control. And we also have the Fake Out. We have Grimmsnarl with Trick, so we can Lagging Tail, we can Eject Button, we can do all that fun stuff. And it just makes me feel like we don't really miss out on too much by not having the redirection there.
Okay, I think that's fair.
Yeah, last time we had Togetic. Last draft we had Togetic, and I did love the Follow Me option. We didn't always click Follow Me. Sometimes, so I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue in terms of redirection.
All right. Well, real quick, we just wanted to ask a couple of questions that we've been asking all the teams. I think you guys handled those other ones pretty good. We can, this is a great draft. But so the first question we wanted to ask to both of you is Pokemon that you drafted that you're excited to use.
Latias. I love Latias. She's great, and she's very versatile, and she can do a lot. So definitely Latias for me.
For me, it's absolutely the Sense Scorch. Sense Scorch, not being a commonly used Pokemon, I think it's gonna do a lot of things that people don't really expect. It hits hard. It's got a lot of different options on how you can run it, and I think it's gonna be really fun to play.
Nice.
I'm excited to see that thing most of all.
Yeah. It kind of leads into my next question. Underrated member of the team that you might think that the league might be sleeping on a little bit.
For me, that's probably gonna be Bronzer. When Henry first brought it up in the D-Picks, I was kind of like Bronzer, and then he kind of explained that it explained its like pros and everything, and I was kind of like, okay, that seems pretty good. So, but now looking at it again, I'm just gonna look at this little disc on my screen, and I'm just kind of like, it's a Bronzer. It's not gonna do anything. And then you look at its defense and special defense stat, you throw an Violet on it, and that thing's not gonna die. And it gets a good amount of support as well. So it's almost kind of like just a really cool Pokemon. I think is gonna do pretty well. That at least if I were like an opponent, I would kind of diss off the Bronzer.
How about you?
Looking at the team, with I'd have to say Cleffa. Losing Cleffa, not having Follow Me. Once people realize that, they tend to kind of look past Cleffa. Outside of redirection, you wouldn't really think of a baby Pokemon such as Cleffa to do much. But if you can get it in if you've got it in Trick Room with something that can just sweep, it doesn't necessarily need to be a Trick Room sweeper. Thanks for that After You, the Heal Pulse, follow up the Helping Hand. It just gives a lot of really nice support in Trick Room.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, I think both those are good calls right there. And lastly, your guys' expectations for this season. You guys have gotten better and better. You guys made playoffs last year. What are your guys' expectations this year?
My expectation is definitely better than last time, which puts us at least top four. I'd really like to win. I think with our experience, plus with I really love our draft, we have the potential to get finals and or win. Um, really,
Yeah, definitely.
As you said, each season that we've played, we've been doing better and better, and we're expecting to be keeping that up. And as Alyssa said, moving at least onto top four, but we're hoping to be able to win the whole thing. And with a draft like this, I'm sure we definitely have the capability of doing so.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see you guys at least doing better than last time, like you said. I think you guys had a great draft last season, but I think this might be my favorite one you guys have done.
Yeah, it's really good. So good job on this one, guys. I think that wraps it up on our end. Did you guys have anything else that you guys wanted to ask us or clarify or anything like that?
Any final thoughts before we sign off here?
Only
I
that.
can't think of too much.
No, only that we hope to put on a good show for everyone who watches us when we stream, and best of luck to all our opponents.
Awesome.
All right.
Sounds
For
good.
sure.
Well, thanks for joining us, guys. We very much appreciate it. Thank you, Henry, for coming all the way from Australia. We appreciate the schedules lining up, so we know it can be difficult sometimes. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, good luck this season.
Thanks for having us.